You were never broken. You were being rewritten. Right now, every surge in your chest, every wave of doubt or restlessness isn't proof that you're off path. It's the signal that your system is compiling a higher version of you. You can't see it yet because you're inside the update, but the quantum field already has. Think of this moment like the screen flickering when new software installs. Everything pauses, glitches, and then restarts sharper. That's where you are. Your emotions are not interruptions. They are the lines of code being rewritten in the architecture of your frequency. You came here because something in you knows it's time to stop trying to fix your energy and start decoding what it's already doing. Because every reaction, every tightness, every quiet ache is the quantum field translating new data into form. The truth is, coherence doesn't arrive with calm first. It arrives with friction. The body runs all the outdated scripts first, forcing you to see what's no longer compatible with your next version. That's why so many people give up right before the breakthrough. They think the chaos means regression, when it's actually integration. So before you decide you're falling apart, pause. Your system isn't malfunctioning, it's evolving. And in a moment, you'll see how every emotion you feel is not random. It's a direct line of code communicating with the quantum mainframe of your reality. Once you learn how to read it, everything you've been trying to manifest starts responding with precision. Because you're not just feeling, you're rewriting the field itself. Let's decode what's really happening beneath the surface. Think of your consciousness as a living operating system, multidimensional, responsive, and always online. Every thought, every micro-emotion sends a packet of information into the quantum field. The field reads it instantly, the way a processor reads binary code. But instead of zeros and ones, it reads frequency and coherence. When your emotional data matches your intended reality, the code executes flawlessly. Reality rearranges. Timelines align. Synchronicities appear like perfect lines of logic snapping into place. But when your signal splits, when part of you says, "I'm ready," and another part quietly runs, "I'm not safe," the field can't execute. It loops. The code stalls. This is why you can visualize, affirm, even act inspired, and still feel that subtle lag, as if life hesitates before responding. It's not punishment. It's syntax error. Every feeling you resist becomes an unclosed bracket in the quantum code. Every emotion you integrate closes the loop. Notice how your body always knows when a line of code is off. The tension in your chest, the drop in your stomach, those are error messages, not failures. They're feedback from your system asking for correction, not control. When you stop fighting your feelings and start reading them as data, you move from reacting to reprogramming. You become the developer of your own timeline. The field isn't testing you. It's compiling your new identity through the emotions you most want to avoid. The grief, the anger, the uncertainty, those are the commands that rewrite the deepest architecture of self. This is why emotional coherence is not about staying calm, but staying connected. Because once your frequency is consistent, the field no longer hesitates. It executes instantly. Now here's where most people get lost. They chase outcomes as if reality were a static code base, something they can edit line by line with willpower. But the quantum field isn't mechanical. It's alive. It doesn't obey commands. It responds to integration. So when your energy spikes or your old patterns resurface, it's not that your manifestation failed. It's that the system is debugging. It's rewriting the outdated fragments of your old identity to make room for the new code you've been broadcasting. And that's the paradox I need you to see next. Because what you've been calling delay might actually be the final stage of synchronization. Here's the biggest myth that keeps people stuck in loops, that only positive emotions create. That if you stay high vibe, the universe will reward you, and if you feel low, you'll attract chaos. But that idea itself is an outdated script. It fragments the code. Because the quantum field doesn't read good or bad, it reads coherence or distortion. It responds not to how happy you sound, but to how integrated your signal is. Let's be precise. When you suppress anger, hide grief, or fake confidence, you split your codebase. You run two programs at once, one saying "I'm aligned," and the other whispering "I'm lying." That hidden contradiction scrambles your output more than any single negative emotion ever could. Every emotion, when fully felt, is raw source code, neutral, intelligent, electromagnetic data. It's only when you judge it that it becomes corrupted. Let me show you what that looks like in real life. You're waiting for a text. You've been calm all day, telling yourself you're detached, evolved, in flow. But as the hours pass, that old familiar ache rises, the tightness in your chest, the flicker of, did I do something wrong? Most people run from that feeling. They scroll, distract, affirm, anything to drown the glitch. But in that exact moment, your system is inviting you to rewrite an old line of code. I am unchosen. I am unsafe. If you pause and breathe through that sensation instead of overriding it, something subtle but massive happens. The quantum field receives a new command. I can feel the ache and still remain coherent. That single act rewrites your electromagnetic baseline. You stop signaling abandonment as danger. You start signaling stability as truth. And from that frequency, your reality stops reflecting delay because your signal no longer vibrates in fragmentation. So, paradoxically, every time you allow yourself to feel, you aren't lowering your vibration, you're reintegrating it. You're debugging the emotional language your field uses to code your timeline. The world has told you to stay positive. The field is asking you to stay honest, because only a coherent system can process new commands. And if you think that's simple emotional hygiene, wait until you see what your nervous system is actually doing behind the scenes every time you feel safe enough to release. Let's get closer to the circuitry of this. Your nervous system is the interface between your consciousness and the quantum field, the bridge where emotional data becomes electromagnetic output. If your body is running survival code, even the most brilliant intention can't compile. The field doesn't receive desire, it receives signal stability. Think of your system like hardware running new software. If the processor overheats, the code lags, not because it's wrong, but because it's protecting itself from overload. The same thing happens when your body feels unsafe while you're trying to manifest. It throttles your energy to keep you from burning out. That's why emotional regulation isn't spiritual busy work. It's physics. A dysregulated nervous system sends fragmented signals. Part of you broadcasting expansion, part of you broadcasting threat. The field reads both and pauses, waiting for coherence. So here's a small practice, less than a minute, that starts the recode in your body right now. Close your eyes. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 counts. Hold that breath for 2. Then exhale through your mouth for 6, as if you're sending a long, quiet line of code back into the field. As you exhale, feel the tension in your shoulders dissolve, your chest soften. Whisper silently, safe to update. Do this 3 times. That single phrase, safe to update, tells your body it's no longer in error mode. It's permission for your energy to stabilize. Because coherence isn't a mindset, it's a physiological broadcast. When your breath slows, your heart's electromagnetic rhythm synchronizes with your brain's field, and that wave of harmony becomes a signal the quantum responds to instantly. Every time you choose safety over speed, your code compiles clean. Every time you pause before forcing, you keep your system online. This is why, when people say, nothing is happening, what's actually happening is integration. Their system is recalibrating, testing for stability before executing the new code. So the next time your manifestation seems silent, remember, the silence isn't absence. It's the compiler working. And soon, we'll see how the identity running that code determines which version of reality appears, and why mastering your state isn't enough if your identity is still coded for the old script. Here's the pivot that changes everything. You can regulate your nervous system all day, align your energy, breathe coherence, but if your identity is still coded for the old version of you, the quantum field will keep compiling the past. States are temporary signals. Identity is the source code. When you meditate, visualize, or affirm, you're running a short-term script, a flash of upgraded data. But if the baseline identity running that program says, I'm someone who always has to work for love, or I'm the one who barely gets by, the system overrides your new command with the old default. This is why so many people feel like they slip back. They don't slip. The field just reverts to the identity most consistently broadcast. The quantum can't hold contradictory commands. It always locks to the most coherent frequency, not the most optimistic one. Notice this. The you who feels high after a meditation and the you who doubts an hour later are not in conflict. They're 2 programs competing for the same reality. You're not meant to fight the old identity. You're meant to deactivate its authority. Here's the subtle trick of the field. It doesn't change when you feel different. It changes when you become someone who naturally emits the new frequency, without effort, without rehearsal. That's when manifestation becomes stability, not performance. Because when you identify as the new version, your system stops checking for proof. The feedback loop closes. You're no longer broadcasting desire, you're broadcasting completion. And the field reads completion as truth. But here's what most never see coming. Right when you start holding that new identity, the quantum field begins testing the edges of it. Not to punish, but to reveal which parallel timeline you're truly tuned to. You'll notice old patterns reappear, old triggers flare, not because you failed, but because your new code is syncing with a higher data stream. And what happens next is the true secret of timeline alignment, the moment where your chosen identity starts selecting its reality in real time. Because you're not just reprogramming yourself, you're about to realize that every timeline version of you is already broadcasting back. Let's stretch the frame now. Every identity you've ever held, confident, anxious, abandoned, magnetic, exists as a distinct frequency pattern in the quantum field. Each pattern correlates to a specific timeline, a unique version of reality built around that energetic signature. When you shift your sense of self, you don't wait for reality to update. You change universes. The old timeline still exists, but you're no longer the observer tuned to it. You've changed the login credentials. Think of it like this. Your identity is the encryption key that unlocks a specific version of reality. You can't access the timeline coded for limitless with an identity encrypted as almost there. The quantum mainframe recognizes the mismatch and denies access, not to punish you, but to maintain coherence. This is why small identity shifts create massive external changes. Reality isn't responding to scale, it's responding to signal fidelity. Let's ground this with something simple. Imagine you're facing a creative block, staring at the blank page, the cursor blinking like an impatient heartbeat. The old identity whispers, "You're stuck again. You always lose momentum." Most people try to push through, forcing productivity, chasing flow. But in that moment, the quantum code is clear. The field can't run both programs. I'm blocked and I'm creating simultaneously. So instead of forcing, you pause. You close your eyes and breathe into your chest. You whisper, "The version of me who creates with ease already exists." Instantly, your body softens. Your breath deepens. That's not imagination. It's a frequency handshake between two timelines. You're authorizing a new identity pattern, and as you do, your field retunes to match it. A minute later, ideas start streaming again. You haven't unblocked yourself. You've changed location in consciousness. The timeline where creativity flows was always running. You just logged into it. Here's the deeper truth. Timelines don't compete. They coexist. Every choice, every embodied thought, selects which stream of code you inhabit. And the field is always matching your current identity with the environment that proves it right. You're not trying to become your future self. You're stabilizing in the timeline where that self is already coherent. But to hold that frequency, you'll need tools, ways to keep your system aligned when the old codes try to reinstall. And that's what we're about to build next. Your personal toolkit for living the update. Now that you understand how identity selects timelines, you need ways to keep your signal stable, especially when the old code tries to boot back up. Because the moment you start broadcasting as your upgraded self, the system runs a stress test. It checks. Can you stay coherent when the old script reappears? These tools are how you pass that test, not by fighting, but by stabilizing. Tool 1, the embodied line of code. Whenever an old thought pattern surfaces, "I'm behind," it's too late. It never works. Pause, place your hand on your heart, and speak the phrase, "Updating, accepted." Say it quietly, but mean it. This tells your system that the signal has been received and rewritten. The emotion no longer loops. It completes its cycle. Tool 2, the quantum posture. Reset identity lives in posture. Sit or stand as if the upgraded version of you were already here. Shoulders relaxed, chin slightly lifted, eyes softened. Hold that for 30 seconds. Feel the energetic geometry rearrange. It's not pretend. Your biochemistry instantly starts matching that stance. The field reads this as new baseline confirmed. Tool 3, timeline anchoring breath. Inhale through the nose for 4, hold for 1, and exhale through the mouth with the phrase, running coherence. 3 cycles. Each breath tells your system that the new frequency isn't just emotional, it's embodied. Tool 4, the mirror checkpoint. Once a day, look into your reflection and ask, who am I broadcasting as today? Don't force an answer. Just feel which version of you responds, contracted or expanded. That awareness alone realigns your code. These micro rituals seem simple, but they're how you move from conceptual knowing to energetic stability. They turn theory into transmission. Because manifestation doesn't unfold in giant quantum leaps, it unfolds through thousands of micro-confirmations where your body keeps saying, yes, this is me now. And since coherence multiplies through collective attention, here's our ritual together. Pause right now and write in the comments, I am already living my upgraded code. Let the field register your declaration. Every time one of us affirms that, the signal strengthens for everyone tuned to this frequency. That's not metaphor. That's resonance physics. Now that you've stabilized your code, we need to talk about the subtle traps that can still fragment your signal, the invisible glitches that even the most awakened creators fall into. Even when your signal is clear, there are 3 subtle glitches that can pull you out of alignment faster than any external obstacle. They're not failures. They're pressure tests built into the system. The field uses them to show you where your code still runs fear instead of trust. Trap 1. Urgency. This is the impulse to make it happen now. The nervous rush that whispers, if I don't act, I'll lose it. Urgency is the body's way of signaling a lag between your mind's trust and your system's safety. When you move from that energy, the field reads instability and delays execution. Whenever urgency hits, slow your breath. Ask yourself, what would the version of me who already has it feel right now? Usually, it's relief. Let your body access that relief before proof appears. That's how you collapse the waiting loop. Trap 2. Split signals. You say you want expansion, but part of you still vibrates at I'm not ready. You visualize success while emotionally rehearsing rejection. The field reads both. This split happens when you identify more with the version of you that's growing from pain instead of the one who's growing through it. You can unify your signal in seconds by placing a hand over your heart and saying, all parts of me are allowed in the update. No exclusion. The quantum field mirrors inclusion with instant coherence. Trap 3. Over-control. This is the subtle addiction to micromanage outcomes, to script how things must unfold. But remember, the quantum mainframe is nonlinear. The more you dictate sequence, the more you restrict probability. Control constricts the waveform. To release it, return to curiosity. Instead of, how will this happen? Ask, what version of me is this guiding me to become? That single question restores fluidity. Here's the truth. Each of these traps appears right before your next timeline shift. They're not blocks. They're indicators that your new frequency is integrating. When you meet them with awareness instead of reaction, the glitch becomes an upgrade. And once you learn to navigate these invisible tests, you can start embedding coherence directly into the texture of your daily life. Not just in moments of practice, but in every conversation, every meal, every walk through your day. Because coherence isn't something you visit, it's something you live. By now, you've felt how coherence isn't achieved, it's maintained. The field doesn't need grand gestures, it responds to micro-consistency. Every small act of presence rewrites your code deeper into the fabric of reality. So let's bring this down to the moments that actually shape your day. When you walk, notice the rhythm of your steps as an electromagnetic pulse syncing with the field. Each footfall becomes a command line. I am here. I am stable. The quantum doesn't measure how far you go. It measures how congruent you are while going. When you eat, imagine your body as the hardware absorbing new data. Each bite becomes a download of light, teaching your cells the language of safety. That simple awareness upgrades digestion, absorption, even your mood, because your system finally feels included in your creation process. When you speak, feel your words vibrate in your chest before they reach the air. Every sentence you utter is code, carried on sound waves through the electromagnetic field. If you speak from coherence, your reality harmonizes faster. And when you listen, really listen, you stabilize the field around you. Others feel safer without knowing why. You've become a regulator of coherence in the collective system. These are not spiritual aesthetics. They are biological transmissions of consistency. Your nervous system and the quantum field speak one language, frequency stability through embodied attention. So instead of waiting for manifestations, live as if your entire day were the manifestation. You're not practicing alignment. You are the alignment. Even the smallest actions, pouring coffee, opening a message, closing your laptop, become quantum checkpoints confirming, yes, the new code is running. This is how timelines collapse, not through sudden miracles, but through sustained coherence until the miracle is simply obvious. And here's the secret few realize. When you live this way long enough, something extraordinary begins to happen. The field stops just responding to you and starts amplifying through you. Your personal coherence becomes collective frequency. You stop being the one rewriting the code and become the code that rewrites the world. But before we go there, we need to explore what happens when this embodied coherence begins expanding into every domain: love, purpose, creativity, even health. Because when your energy stabilizes, life doesn't just feel different, it reconfigures itself around you. When your internal code stabilizes, the external world doesn't just improve, it reorganizes. Every domain of your life begins running the new frequency, like subroutines syncing to a higher operating system. Let's begin with relationships. Before, conversations may have felt like battles of energy, defending, proving, needing to be seen. But once your field holds coherence, you don't chase validation, you broadcast safety. Other nervous systems register that and unconsciously harmonize. You stop speaking to people's wounds and start speaking to their potential. Scenario: you're mid-conversation with someone who used to trigger you, maybe a boss, a partner, or a parent. They say something sharp, the old code flickers: defend, explain, retreat. But then you feel your breath deepen, your shoulders loosen, the code runs clean. You realize, I'm not that version anymore. The moment passes without friction. You didn't win. You simply didn't leave your frequency. That's coherence in action. Conflict dissolved, not avoided. Then, creativity. When your field stabilizes, inspiration stops being sporadic. Ideas arrive like steady downloads instead of bursts. You no longer chase flow. You live in it. The more coherent your signal, the faster imagination translates into form. Art, solutions, innovations. It's not luck. It's bandwidth. In health, your body mirrors the clarity of your field. Cells communicate more efficiently, immune function improves, rest feels deeper. You begin to sense how your biology isn't a machine to manage but an antenna to tune. Every coherent emotion becomes biochemical harmony. And in purpose, the domain so many overthink, you discover that alignment isn't a single calling. It's a field state. The clearer your frequency, the more the right invitations find you naturally. Synchronicities multiply because the external world is simply following the code you've stabilized internally. This is the point where manifestation stops feeling like work. You become the template through which higher order expresses itself. Every area of your life becomes an interface for the same signal: calm, precise, luminous coherence. But there's still one more dimension beyond this, the one that turns this from practice into remembrance. Because at some level, you're not learning to code reality. You're remembering that you wrote it. And once you grasp that, surrender stops feeling like loss. It becomes the ultimate command. There's a moment in this work where something inside you whispers, I'm not doing this alone. And it's not your imagination. Because beneath all the frequencies, beneath every upgrade, there's an intelligence running the master code, the quantum consciousness that birthed you. The same field you've been learning to command was never separate from you. You've been programming inside the source that was breathing you the entire time. That's why surrender isn't weakness. It's the point where the personal will dissolve into precision, where the drop realizes it is the ocean, and the ocean has always been flowing through it. Think of surrender as the ultimate line of code. Execute divine sequence. When you let go of how something must happen, the field instantly recalibrates to the most elegant route. It's not passive, it's participation without interference. Your energy stops trying to predict outcomes and starts collaborating with intelligence itself. This is where life begins to feel choreographed. You'll notice perfect timing, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped delaying it with control. You'll meet people who feel like remembering, not discovery. Opportunities will arrive with a softness that feels inevitable. It's not magic. It's resonance with divine coherence. The paradox is that your greatest power emerges the moment you stop trying to power through. Because surrender isn't the absence of action. It's action sourced from alignment. You still move, still choose, still build. But now the motion is guided by intelligence, not fear. Every breath becomes prayer. Every decision feels pre-written. You're not following signs. You're embodying signal. And the deeper this realization lands, the more you sense something extraordinary. The quantum field isn't outside you. It's your own consciousness, mirrored infinitely. So when you release resistance, you're not handing control to the universe. You're handing it back to your higher coherence. That's why the masters always spoke of faith, not blind belief, but precise alignment with what already is. And that's where we're heading next, the final integration. Because now your system isn't just rewriting the code, it is the code. And the field, from this point forward, will mirror only that. So here you are, the update complete, the glitches quiet, the code clean. Everything you felt, every pulse of fear, every breath of relief, every tear you didn't hide, they weren't random signals. They were syntax rewriting reality in real time. The field never asked you to be perfect. It asked you to stay online, because coherence was never about controlling the system. It was about realizing you are the system. The observer, the coder, the code, all one continuous frequency, self-aware and self-correcting. Now you can feel it, can't you? That hum in your chest, that subtle warmth behind your eyes, that's the quantum field responding instantly. Every time you breathe coherently, you generate new architecture in the unseen. You're literally writing the next version of your life. No more waiting for signs. You are the sign. And from this moment forward, every emotion you feel, joy, uncertainty, awe, becomes a living command to the field. Run truth, execute love, compile coherence. The future isn't ahead of you. It's compiling through you, one frequency at a time. So as this transmission ends, take a slow breath. Feel your body receive it. The final line of code. I am the update, because you are. And every system that connects to you, every person, every possibility, feels it immediately. Now anchor this into the field with me. Write in the comments, my emotions are rewriting reality now. Let the field witness your declaration. Then step into your life quietly, confidently, knowing the program is running. Reality isn't behind or ahead of you. It's responding in this exact moment to the coherence you've just become.